When talking about mediatisation, one of the things that tends to trick people up is they tend to get confused over what exactly is being mediatised. So I thought I might give an example using social media to help explain it. So when people start talking about social media as an example of mediatisation, it is actually a really good example because it's something that we all use, it's something that plays a big part in our lives. But we're not often sure what the gist of it is. What is the thing that is actually being mediatised by social media? Now sometimes people try to think or try to explain it as it's another form of media being mediatised by social media. You post a video up on YouTube, or you post something on TikTok, and then that is mediatising what you post. But that falls into the trap of trying to explain something that is already media as an example of mediatisation. So what we need to do is take a step back and think about what is actually being mediatised when we engage with social media. And I'd argue there's really two things. The first is really just the act of communication itself. So most communication that we engage with these days is mediatised to some extent. But with social media in particular, the use of emojis, the use of GIFs, the use of, I guess, para-language like that is a good example of mediatisation. What it means is that when we use things like emojis, we have to change the way we're communicating to really suit the media logic of the platform that we're using. There are particular forms of emojis that are more appropriate for different types of social media. And how you use those emojis actually, to some extent, demonstrates your proficiency in using that platform. So that's the first part. What's being mediatised here is the act of communication. The second thing that is mediatised is your identity formation process, how you depict yourself to the world. So when you have a look at how people pose in photos for social media, what we often see is people adopt poses that are really similar to magazine images that we've seen before, and those magazine images themselves have become part of social media. So when we pose in that way, what we're essentially doing is we're mediatising how we display our identity. We're using particular poses, particular ways of representing ourselves, which we've gained from media exposure in the past, and then representing those as a way of explaining who we are. So in those two examples, one communicating through things like emojis, and secondly adopting poses and adopting conventions that are based on traditional forms of media, these are examples of how social media can be used as an example of mediatisation.